Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. I'm Gene Della Sala, president of Audioholics, and today I'd like to review a Denon AVR-X3300W 7.2 channel Dolby Atmos DTS X networking streaming 4K Ultra HD AV receiver. Hold on a minute. There's a lot of stuff that this thing does, guys, so of course it's going to have a long title. But basically, let me tell you, it's from their X series. It's the mid-price point model. It's about $1,000, 7 channels, okay? It's rated at 105 watts a channel times 7. Now, of course, when you get this out of the box, you're going to see the little sticker on the front panel. It says 215 watts, and people are going to be, ooh, I got 215 watts a channel. I have the most powerful receiver. Yeah, not. The 215 watt rating is really just a marketing ploy for the uninitiated. It's a 1-channel driven 6 ohm 10% THD at 1 kilohertz. So it's really a super max rating, guys, okay? In reality, it's much lower than that. We have bench tests, and we'll talk about that later in the review. So anyways, cool receiver, okay? For those worrying about future-proofing, I can't tell you that this is future-proof because in this industry, nothing is future-proof when they're changing models every 8 to 12 months, and the technology is changing much faster than the software can keep up. But I will tell you that it has 8 HDMI HDCP 2.2 4K Ultra HD inputs and 2 independent outputs. The second output is assignable for zone 2, or it could be used for the main zone. You could do an independent source on that output, which is really cool at a receiver at this price range. Years ago, only the flagship models would give you a feature like that. Really a cool feature. It has a very intuitive OSD, the on-screen display. You plug this thing in and it starts asking you a series of questions about where your speakers are located, the size and type of your speakers, and really it's meant for a beginner. If you want to follow the on-screen prompts, you can have this thing set up in 10 or 15 minutes, you know, not including the Audyysey calibration, but you could have this thing ready to go and playing music, and it's really great because Denon's come a long way in getting the user interface better for the layman, and I got to give them props on that. Some other really awesome features that this model has that I haven't seen in many other models at this price class. It has dual subwoofer outputs that are independent. Now, most receivers either give you 1 subwoofer output or they might give you 2, but usually the 2 outputs are paralleled and they're not independent, meaning that they only have 1 channel trim, a common channel trim, and a common delay setting. With this model, you actually get independent, so you get independent channel trims and independent delays. Now, this is great when you're setting up multi-sub and you want to hone in on the delay settings and the channel levels and all that stuff. It just gives you more flexibility to get those 2 subs integrated better with the rest of your system, and it's awesome that Denon gives you this. Another cool thing that they're doing in this model, and this is one of the newer models that are doing this, is finally, for years we've been saying, please give us the ability to alter Audyysey and to not have to EQ the entire frequency range. Well, Denon, because Audyysey wasn't doing this on their own, Denon said, you know what, we're going to be competitive. We're going to do what Anthem does with the ARC. We're going to do what a lot of the companies are doing. We're going to allow you to decide on how much correction you want. So after you run the Audyysey calibration, you could download for 20 bucks on your smartphone, right here, guys, your smartphone. You could download their Audyysey editor app. And you could literally go in and just kind of mess with the curve. You could stop the correction from whatever frequencies you want. Generally, we tell you, you don't want to correct really above the room transition frequency, which in small room acoustics is 300 to 500 hertz. Anytime you start EQing above that, you run into problems because microphones have a hard time differentiating between direct and reflected sound. And when you start getting into the higher frequencies, that's where your problem lies, because every little thing that changes in the room, it can't really decipher between the reflections versus the direct sound of the speaker. And you can get mixed results with EQ, which is why we really like to EQ the bass. That's where it matters most. And the Denon allows you to EQ each channel separately. It allows you to change the range of that. And you, like I said, you get the dual subwoofer outputs. And when it does Audyysey calibration, it'll actually run both subs at the same time to do a common EQ curve, which is really the best way you want to do it. So we did not get a chance to really play with the Audyysey editor app on this model because that feature came after we had the model in for review. So we're now doing this video after the review is done. And I'm going to have to revisit doing the test on Audyysey Editor app, probably on the next model, whether it's the 4300 or one of the flagship models. So definitely check back on that and we'll give you more test results on it. So let me tell you a little bit about the power of this receiver. We did some bench tests. I've directly compared it with the Yamaha RX-A861, which retails for about $100 less than this model. And the Denon compared favorably, especially at 4 ohms. The Yamaha kind of fell apart at 4 ohms. There's just too many nannies on the thing, and it just did not want to handle a 4 ohm load very well. The Denon did really well. You could look at our bench test results. You could see that it's a powerful unit for what it is. I have no problems telling people to use 4 ohm speakers with this. Now, I will tell you, avoid, like the plague, the eco setting, and avoid changing the impedance setting to anything less than 8 ohms. When you turn that eco mode on, and I'm all pro environment. I'm all about anthropologic climate change, and we should do our bit to save the country and save the world. This is not that bit. This is not going to make a lick of difference. What it is going to do is it's going to limit the power to your speakers to 20 watts a channel, no matter how many channels are driven under any condition on the bench. Don't use the eco mode. Make sure it's turned off. Don't press it on the remote control. I would even yank that button off of the remote, because you know some kid is going to come and pick up your remote and oh, what's this little green leaf? And boom, you just limited the power of your receiver to 20 watts a channel. Don't do it, guys. I'm telling you, just avoid it like the plague. So that said, let me tell you a little bit more. The preamp output on this thing, for those wanting to eventually expand to higher power units, by adding external amplification, the preamp output on this is very solid. It gave us about 4 volts RMS out. That's over twice the voltage you need to drive pretty much any amplifier in the market to full power. Here's where it was much better than the Yamaha. The Yamaha was struggling to give more than about 1.6 volts, and it started clipping and getting really distorted and eventually shut down. Denon has always given good preamp outputs, especially their sister company, the Marantz models. Always given solid preamp outputs. I never have a problem when you have preamp outs with these receivers to match with virtually any amplifier in the market. And that's a great feature, guys. We always tell people, when you're spending this kind of money on an AV receiver, or even if you're spending a little less, try to step up to the next model and get the one with the preamp outs. Because I can tell you so many times people are getting into an AV system, a year or two later they're like, I want more power, I'm adding bigger speakers. And if they get the model without the preamp outs because the model below is $150 or $200 less, now they got to ditch the whole receiver and get a whole new one. Please get a model with preamp outs, and this model gives you that, and it gives you a great preamp out section on it. They have a good power assignability for their amplifiers. You could either bi-amp, you could do zone 2, or you could do height. Now, this model is not very powerful to do bi-amping. We generally say don't even bother with that feature, because now you're going to be driving 4 amps for 2 speakers, and you're just not gaining a whole lot by doing that. I would either use the extra 2 channels to do height channels for Atmos, or do back channels, or do a zone 2. Now, one disadvantage that this model has over the Yamaha RX-861 is the Yamaha allows you to pre-wire for up to 9 speakers. So you could automatically switch between height or back channels or zone 2 speakers on the Yamaha. You can't do that on the Denon. You can only pre-wire for 7 speakers at a time. So if you want to have zone 2 going, you need to add external amplification at that time. There's just no way of pre-wiring for all of that off of this receiver. And I hope in the next model Denon adds some more outputs on that for their speaker connections, because Pioneer has that, and most of their competitors do that as well. So that's one thing that they might want to consider when they go to the 3400 model, in literally probably in about 6 months. So let's talk about the networking and streaming of this thing. Unfortunately, the 3300 model does not have HEOS, which is their music management system, but it does an excellent job of streaming. I literally had this thing networking off my hard drive in 3 minutes. And it shows you the album art. It does Bluetooth, so if you want to do Bluetooth, it's very easy to wirelessly do music to this system or network music to the system. I'm sure having Denon HEOS would be icing on the cake, but unfortunately this model is not upgradable to it. You'd have to go to the next model to get to that. So you're probably wondering, what does the next model give you? Well, the AVR-X3300H is about $500 more than this. a little bit of a step up. You know, some of their competitors, they give you the next model for 200 or 300 more. Denon makes you pay a little bit more. So the 4300 model, if you're looking to spend 1500 bucks, you're going to get 20 more watts a channel. The real, which isn't a whole lot, but it's something. But you're also going to get 9 channels of amplification. So now you can do a full 5.1.4 Atmos system with 4 height channels. So if you want to do 9 channels of processing, you can't do it with the 3300. Even if you add an extra 2-channel amp, that's only going to go to zone 2. If you want 9 channels of processing in the Denon line, you need to go to the 4300 model or above. You also get the Denon Link HD, which I don't think anybody even uses that anymore, to be honest with you. But you get their Alpha 24-bit processing, which is kind of a cool feature. You get 3 zones of audio, and you get the increased processing of 4 Shark processors. That's why they do the 9-channel processing. And you get Denon HEOS, the music management system. So all I could tell you guys is this model does a lot of good. It does a lot of things right. It's got solid bench test results. If you're getting into Atmos and you want to have, and you're only going to do 7 speakers anyways, then this is the model for you. I don't see why you would go to the next model if you're not going to use the 9-channel processing. If you wait a few months, you could get HEOS probably in the 3400 model. But then again, you could always save money and get this one when it's on discount, because this is a really good receiver. I was a little skeptical at first because it's not built to the standards of the older Denon models. But that's kind of a trend now in the industry anyways. I mean, you're not getting, for $1,000 today, you're not getting a receiver that's built to the way it was built 10 to 15 years ago. You're just not, because now you're adding so much more processing to it. You're adding more licensing fees. They're not being built in Japan anymore. They're being built in the Philippines or Vietnam or whatever. They're just, it's different, guys. It's a different market now. But that being said, this is a solid choice for you guys to make if you're getting into Atmos. It's got all the features you'd expect. It's got expandability. And there's really not much more I could say about that. I would tell you guys to take a look at it. If you want something with a little bit better aesthetics and even a cleaner preamp output, you could look at the Marantz model, the SR511, 5011. That's another solid offering from them. They share platforms together, so it's kind of like Pioneer and Onkyo. Denon and Marantz do the same thing. So it's a solid line, guys. Check it out. Let us know what you think. Do you have this model? Do you have a Denon receiver? Are you into Atmos? Send us some questions, comment down below, and let us know what you want us to cover next time. And guys, until next time, my friends, keep listening.